After conquering Long Island, up next for the Carolina Hurricanes, it's taking over Manhattan.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day, Monday through Friday, 5 times a week, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I am the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer at the Hockey Writers. I also work for the Calder Times as well, talking about American League hockey. I am also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is another Carolina Hurricanes podcast that is a weekly show, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. I am super excited to bring you, the Everydayer, the round 2 preview with John over at Locked On Rangers. We're going to be talking about everything with, storylines coming into the series, key players to keep an eye on, also X factors and predictions and all that good stuff on a Friday crossover with him to cover everything they said of round 2 and all that good stuff. But before we get into all of that, game off, we got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool player pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. So like I said, here in a second, we're going to jump over to the crossover between me and John of the New York Rangers, doing the nice little round 2 preview like we did with Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders. So without further ado, let's head on over to the crossover and talk some Rangers Canes of round 2 of the 2024 NHL playoffs.
All right, so here we go. A special crossover edition of Locked On New York Rangers and Locked On Carolina Hurricanes. We've got Zach Martin from Locked On Canes. I am John Chik with Locked On New York Rangers. And, Zach, we were talking for a couple of minutes there before we hit record. And obviously, this is going to be a heavyweight matchup, 2 teams, 2 bona fide Stanley Cup contenders. And, we'll get to the matchups and everything real quick. But I did want to ask you real quick about the first round. Both teams got by in somewhat short order. The Rangers sweep, the Canes win in 5 games. But I don't know about you, man. No matter how much it feels like the Rangers are in control, I'm always a little bit nervous. How about you watching the Canes there against the Islanders? Like, were you nervous at all, or do you think they had it all the way?
I would definitely say a little bit of nervousness just because of the fact that, the Hurricanes did have to come back in game 2. They were down, 3-0, came back and won it. And then even you look at game 5, they were down, able to, they were up, let them tie it, but then got a couple goals really quick too as well. So it had a lot of just comebacks and intrigue and lead changes and stuff like that. So it ended in 5, but I would definitely say there was a lot of drama, a lot of, a high, clutch key moments and stuff like that too. I mean, overall good goaltending as well. So, it was, by any stretch of the imagination, it wasn't super easy, but it was also okay, you could kind of tell that difference of here's your 100-plus point team in the Carolina Hurricanes, and here's your team that finished 20 points behind the Hurricanes and the Rangers in the New York Islanders. So you can see there was a difference at some points, but also too, there was a little too close for comfort sometimes in that series, though, overall. But, for you, how was it just being able to sit back and be like, there's 4 games. Next.
It was very strange, and I kind of felt the same way you did. It felt like watching these teams play each other, like you're watching the series unfold, and there's no reason to believe that the Capitals are going to beat the Rangers 4 times before the Rangers beat the Capitals 4 times. But you never know. We've seen some big upsets in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and you never know what can happen. But as far as actually getting the sweep and, actually getting to kick back and watch all these other series, as we're recording this, we've got game 6 of Boston and Toronto going on. Maybe we'll both catch the end of that when we're done here. But it was wild. Ranger fans are not used to this at all. We were joking around right before we hit record here, too, about how the last Rangers sweep was against the Atlanta Thrashers. I want to say that was about 17 years ago. So very unfamiliar territory for the Rangers, but I think we're enjoying it, kind of putting our feet up and watching all these other series unfolds, watching all these other fan bases lose their minds. It's been nice. And, the thing I like, part of me wanted to see the Canes and Islanders beat up on each other and see that series go as long as possible. But you know what? Both teams are on equal footing now. They're both going to get a pretty good break Rangers slightly longer break, but they'll both have some days off going into this series. Both teams appear to be at full strength, and hey, may the best man win. Am I right?
Yeah, no, definitely best man win. I mean, like you look back at the regular season, it was very tough. You guys, came to Carolina, won 1-0 off of Brady Shea skate because why not? Welcome to hockey. Anything can happen like that. And then, Hurricanes come up to your barn, win 6-0 to start the new year out and stuff like that. But just two tough teams. Like it went down to the wire, honestly, to the last week of the season. And like it's basically came down to you guys having to win the Presidents in the Metro Division. The Hurricanes were right there with you guys the whole time too, even after the slow start to the beginning of the season. But yeah, honestly, it's no matter how it goes, it's going to be a good matchup between two teams. Like you said, two powerhouses, two teams that were basically top three in scoring. The Hurricanes with the power play and the penalty kill to where it's at too, and the Rangers are your guys' power play is also scary. I don't know. It's like on paper, it's kind of tough. Like, who do you pick here? That's the thing. It's like there's no clear cut. This team is going to do it. It's like, shoot, anyone can win this series. To be honest, it's a coin flip at this point. In my opinion.
And not to spoil our predictions or anything, but I also believe that this will be a longer series and a dogfight all the way through. But you touched on special teams there, Zach, and obviously both teams excel at it. Both teams had a top 3 power play in the regular season. Both teams had a top 3 kill. It's obviously an area of strength for both teams. Both teams did some damage on the power play in the first round of the playoffs as well. So I wanted to ask you, specifically about the Canes special teams units, and you could talk about the power play or the kill. What does it make that makes them so good, when it comes to their special teams? Well, why are they so dangerous in that regard?
I mean, it's crazy when you look at it, because if you look at the penalty kill, the penalty kill for the Hurricanes has been good for the last couple seasons. Even last year for 22-23, they were first in the NHL. And the surprising part was like the start of this current season of 23-24, they weren't really doing that great. Like you saw them in like 22nd at one point as their lowest, and then just as the season went along, they just kept getting better and better, got back into their flow, and they were the number 1 penalty kill unit in the entire NHL for like the second time in back-to-back seasons. And the power play was second. Like you're talking about a power play that finished like middle of the pack last year, and you just see a huge jump up where it's like there's not really guys they swapped out. Is more of like just rearranged guys into certain spots, and somehow just clicked for Jeff Daniels, who's the power play specialist and stuff like that. And of course, you have Tim Gleason, who's the defense coach, and also helps out with just defensive stuff like that too. And it's scary. It's scary how the fact that the Hurricanes are able to have a top 3 penalty kill and power play. And some people have joked about the Canes penalty kill almost being a power kill because they score a lot of shorthanded goals too. They had 11 shorthanded goals this season, which is, I don't know about you, John, but that's very scary if I'm any team, for the fact that, oh my gosh, these guys can score on the power play, the penalty kill, and 5-on-5. How do you stop that? How do you stop that?
Absolutely. I'm with you, man. And I don't have the Rangers' exact total. I know they got a good amount of shorties this year as well. Mika and Kreider will kind of pick their spots when they're shorthanded. But, as for the Ranger power play, I think the Canes were second, and I want to say the Rangers were third, but kind of neck and neck. And, I think it's, to begin with, I just have to mention that Ranger fans, I feel like we're all still kind of getting used to having a good power play over these last 3 seasons here, because for years and years, Rangers would have some really good teams. Even the team that went to the finals, 10 years ago now, didn't really have like the best power play ever. They were all right, but I wouldn't call them elite. But this group they have now, that they just complement each other so well, feels like it always starts with, a clean face-off win by Trocheck. You've got Kreider as your net front presence. Panarin doing his thing. He can pretty much, make magic anytime he's on the ice. Adam Fox is a great quarterback, and Mika Zibanejad can let that one-timer rip with the best in the league. So it's been a lot of fun, and the PK is just kind of a sum of all the parts. Igor Shesterkin is fantastic, good defenseman, and some forwards that are really strong penalty killers. And you take a unit that was already good, you bring in Alex Wenberg at the deadline, and now strength becomes even more of a strength, and they've done a heck of a job there. So it's been fun to watch, and you never know what's going to happen for sure, but if one of these teams has any kind of even slightly significant edge when it comes to special teams in this series, that's probably going to be the team that wins the series. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, I would definitely agree with that for sure. Yeah, because if you look at the Hurricanes, you talk about getting Kuznetsov and you're getting Jake Gensel, too, at the deadline. Honestly, both teams really loaded up, and you're kind of like, okay, now it's like, how do you make this work, trying to defend both power play units that at will can score at any time with defensemen who can score and, guys who can't score on power plays and special teams? And, yeah, I agree with you. Like, whoever manages to make the other team pay on, power play or even get those shorthanded goals. Yeah, I think there could be a chance you might see a team steal a game just on their special teams play alone. And I think that's going to be a huge factor because you saw it in round 1 against the Islanders. The Hurricanes made the Islanders pay a lot on their special teams and stuff like that too. And I know you guys did the job as well. It's if you're any type of special team specialist or just a coach, you're kind of like sweating if anything happens, because it's like, oh, all right, better tighten it up because you don't want to give the other team a chance, because if you do, it's going to be a long night for you for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle. And to your point, I think, the ability to stay out of the penalty box, which was something of an issue for the Rangers in the first round, part of that was officiating, but staying out of the box, I think, is going to be huge in this series as well. But we'll keep everything rolling here in just a second, Zach. We were going to get into some players to watch for both teams. Also going to do some predictions at the end of the episode. But first, we definitely would like to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On Rangers and Locked On Canes is brought to you by FanDuel. It is winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And so, Zach, figured we can keep everything rolling here and, talk a little bit about some of the important players to watch on each side here. And, I'll let you go first, man. First player that comes to mind for the Canes that, you think is going to have a big series and somebody that could be a difference maker, for your team going into this.
Yeah, I would say not someone who has to step up. I think he's already stepped up to begin with this playoff, and it's Seth Jarvis. I mean, 7 points in 5 games, leading the team right out of the first round. Power play goal, hitting with a +4 as well, and his shooting percentage was 27.3%. Like, he was absolutely dialed in for a guy who's 22. He's seen the playoffs all 3 years of his career, with the fact this is year 3 after having 33 goals, 34 assists, and 67 points, and just continuing what he's already been doing. It shows of how good Seth Jarvis has been. He played on the start of the series on the first line with Aho and Gensel, goes down to the third line to play with Jordan Stahl, and still produced on both lines. He produces on the penalty kill, on the power play. Like, his 200-foot game's gotten so good as well. And pretty much Brind'amour uses him pretty much everywhere on the ice. And he throws hits too. Like, he actually smoked Noah Dobson in game 1 with a massive hit. And that kind of set the tone for the series. So yeah, I would say not someone to even step up, just for someone to continue what he's doing. And that's Seth Jarvis, because, oh my goodness, this dude he's making his presence felt already in the playoffs. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a very young player, obviously a high draft pick for you guys. I want to say he went 12th or 13th overall.
Yep, 13th back in 2020. Yep.
13, yeah. So tremendously impressive young player, and one of those guys that I feel like, certainly you and Canes fans are aware of him, and, if you're a fan of a team in the Metro Division like I am with the Rangers, you know about him too. But one of those guys that I don't know is getting enough credit, respect, whatever you want to call it, around the league. It's truly one of the, exciting young players in this game, and one of the guys with a lot of upside.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to throw out a player, I'm going to go, it's such an obvious name to throw out there, but I'm going to go with the goalie, Igor Shesterkin. He was outstanding against the Capitals in the last series, and somebody that over these last 3 years, with the Rangers being in the playoffs every year, has really kind of established himself as a big game goalie, a clutch playoff goalie. The last 2 years, he's gone through one different funk in each of the 2 seasons, but I feel like, watching him just kind of go about his business against the Capitals, and I realize it's the Caps, and yes, the Canes are going to be a much tougher opponent, but I just feel like, Igor is in a very good headspace. He hasn't gotten too high or low, during any of these playoff matchups against the Caps here. There was a goal that he allowed right at the start of Game 3. It gave the Caps a 1-0 lead, and kind of soft, a shot by Carlson, and Carlson's a good player, obviously, but kind of I think it went off his glove and into the net, and At times in the past, maybe Igor would let that snowball a little bit, but not this time. He was phenomenal the rest of the way. Didn't allow another goal. Rangers won that game. Took the 3-0 series lead. But Igor's been great, and he's got his work cut out for him because the Canes certainly do not have any shortage of weapons, any shortage of players that can really snipe. And Freddie Anderson's a great goalie too. That's gonna be a really fun matchup to watch. But being a Ranger fan, I always just feel like with Igor, it feels like they always have a little bit of an edge. But it's going to be a battle between him and Freddie for sure.
Oh yeah, and honestly, going right off of that, my other guy is Frederik Andersen. I mean, you look at how he is this year. He was just named the finalist for the Bill Masterton on Thursday afternoon. Deservingly so for the fact that he missed 4 months of the regular season. He missed over 40 games, comes back, alternates with Peter Chik for the last 20 games of the season. Absolutely just steamrolls through. You get like 7 wins in a row coming back, 3 shutouts in that stretch. And you look at the playoffs. 4-1 record, a 2.25 goals against, and a .912 save percentage. And that's great to see for the fact that he played in all 5 games, which is the most that he played since coming back. Because like I said, he usually just alternated. But you throw him into the playoffs, and he's just been basically lights out for the Hurricanes. Like, the most goals he's given up in a game was 3, and he did it twice. And one of those games was a double overtime winner to the Islanders in game 4. So it took like an extra period and a half just to give up that other third one. So it's one of those things where Freddie's been playing really well, and it's just kind of building off of last year's playoff performance where he went 5-3 with a 1.83 goals against and a .927 save percentage. And that's including a quadruple overtime game 1 against the Florida Panthers in the Eastern Conference Final. So it's good to see for the fact that he's building off of last playoffs because unfortunately 2 years ago he got hurt against Colorado with 2 weeks left of the season and missed the whole playoffs for the Hurricanes, in his first year with the team. But now the fact that you see him come last year, how good he did in the playoffs. And then this year he's already on a good start at once again. Like I said, the save percentage is where you want to see it. And the goals against, you can't be mad at a 2.25 in 5 games, especially with a double overtime in that process too. But yeah, I honestly, this is gonna be a goalie deal. Like we saw it, when that 1-0 game. I could see it happening again, where these two were Shesterkin and Freddie. Like whoever out goalies the other one could really make it. Either one of these goalies could steal a series. Honestly, they could steal a game and make this series very, very interesting.
Yeah, well. Absolutely. I mean, there's so much riding on the goalie position for really any playoff series, but when you've got 2 elite guys like this, I think it just kind of goes to a whole nother level. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see these teams, get into overtime, like 1-1 tie, maybe even a scoreless tie. A game goes into overtime. I mean, both these guys, they're big time. They're big time goalies that step up in big spots and seem to have the clutch factor. If I'm going to throw out another player, I'm going to go with Alexis Lafreniere. He did have 4 points in the first round there. I feel like, though, compared to what he did in the regular season, there's still kind of another level that he can get to. We saw him really take a hop, skip, and a leap forward this season. His skating really improved. He just feels like a much more confident player. And, for somebody that's a former number 1 overall pick, first few seasons that he had in the league, you just didn't see a lot of those like true wow moments where he's, faking guys out of their skates or beating the goalie clean. But we saw a lot more of that this year. And again, he played well in the first round, but I mean, if he has a good series against Carolina, and if the Rangers do win the series, I don't think anybody's going to ever be able to throw the bust word around with him ever again, because he really did a nice job this year. And it's crazy to think, he still is just, I believe, 22 years old at this point. He's arrived, and if he can find it and really play the way that he did in the regular season, along with Panarin and Trocheck, then I think that's certainly going to bode very, very well for the Rangers and their chances of getting past the Hurricanes here. Yeah,
no, I definitely agree. Yeah, I mean, definitely someone that the Hurricanes don't want to look at, don't want to overlook. And even more so, too, even if you're looking at for the Rangers looking at the Hurricanes, someone not overlook, I would say Evgeny Kuznetsov, because yes, he had a really stellar penalty shot goal, which took 12.36 seconds to score between whistle and goal, which is hilarious for the fact that someone timed it, and the way he did it too was fantastic. But surprisingly as well, though, he had 4 points in the series, 2 goals, 2 assists. He finished with a +2, and he shot at a 33.3% clip. Now, it was only 6 shots on goal, but it made him count when it really needed to. And the fact that, score the first goal of the entire series for both teams, came in really early in the first period of game one. And he, as a fourth line center, he's out on the fourth line, but there's just the way he plays. It makes you really need to pay attention because he can set the passes beautifully. His patience is really good. Like, he literally faked out a New York Islander at the blue line and still able to keep the puck and everything else like that too. And it's just, he brings an extra level of, being there as a veteran. He won the cup. He knows what it takes to get there, but just his personality and just being able to already be a fan favorite, already a teammate that everyone loves. He's bringing an energy to the team that's like, okay, it's time to be serious, but he also knows how to bring the best out of these guys too, especially for the fact that he's only been with the team for 20 games, but just already his impact on this team, I think, is something that's really beneficial for the Hurricanes. I would be like, this is a guy it's going to be sneaky good, I think, in this series that you really wouldn't ever think of, because he also plays on the power play as well. So despite being on the quote unquote fourth line, he still gets some significant minutes too for the Hurricanes.
He's somebody that's kind of been a Ranger nemesis for a long time, and granted, he is on a different team now. And, for most of his career, obviously a top six kind of guy. But, to your point, fourth line, if he can give your team a little bit of depth. And sometimes too, I feel like, a player gets to be a veteran, gets a little bit older, and now he's on the fourth line. And he's at the point where it's almost like, anything he does is kind of a bonus, because, Kuznetsov has a quiet game or even a quiet series, the Canes can still win. It's not like it's a death sentence for them, but one of those guys that, he'll be out there against other bottom sixers, and maybe he can take advantage of that. I do like the Rangers' depth, and hopefully they can contend with him. He has hurt the Rangers in the past, so my fingers are crossed that it doesn't happen again. But if I'm going to throw out one more player here, and then we can move on to some predictions and some other fun things, I'm going to go with Chris Kreider. He's somebody that, obviously, the elder statesman of the Rangers. He's been here forever. Went through the rebuild with them, came out of it. Obviously, the Rangers are a very good team again. He can be so hot and cold with his scoring, and he's somebody that in any given playoff series, he can carry the Rangers offensively, or he can be a complete non-factor. And obviously, from my point of view, I'm hoping that it's the former. But, when he's going right, he does a lot to really help this team. He's become so good at being a really strong net front presence. He's just lethal with those redirections, the tip-in kind of goals. And, just a massive part of the Ranger power play, massive part of the penalty kill. We talked earlier about how good, both teams are with their special teams. And, just one of those guys, he's a go-to guy. If it's late in the game and it's tied, he's going to be out there. If the Rangers are up a goal, he's going to be out there trying to protect the lead. If they're down a goal, he's going to be out there trying to do what he can to get the equalizer. So Kreider is going to be big, obviously one of the leaders on the team too, and somebody that, Ranger fans are hoping can, be the good Chris Kreider, be the guy that, can carry a team offensively when he's going right. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, he's definitely someone that I would really keep an eye on too. Like you said, last year he went off, really had a great season, and just if he gets hot at the right time for you guys, yeah, that could be a problem. So it's just depth all around. If some guys for the Hurricanes get hot too. It's just there's some big names that kind of didn't really pop off the screen, but if they get going too, like Kreider for you guys, woof, you'll take it. You'll take it, especially for sure. So.
Absolutely. It's going to be a really fun series, and we'll get to our predictions in just a minute here. But Zach, would you first like to let the fine listeners know about Monopoly Go?
Yeah, of course. But more so that it's all right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers, you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, and hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on.
All right. And so, Zach, I figure we'll wrap up today talking a couple X factors, a couple of predictions as well. And, one thing I got to ask you about, we haven't really talked about him a whole lot yet, but obviously one of the prize pickups at the trade deadline season, Jake Gensel gets traded in division from the Penguins to the Hurricanes. And, the reason I think he's kind of an X factor is because there were these rumors that the Rangers were in on him, and I was never buying it. I just never thought that the Penguins would trade him to the Rangers. The animosity between those franchises is just off the charts right now. And also that the Rangers would be willing to match, whatever astronomical price that the Penguins would want from the Rangers. He ends up going to the Canes. I'm not going to lie. I would have been cool with seeing him go somewhere else. But you guys got your guy, and he's there. And I mean, what a run he's had. Just an awesome stretch at the end of the regular season, and it's carried over into the playoffs too. So first of all, how thrilled were you when you saw they were getting him? And what are you seeing from him as far as, how he's been able to fit in with this team so quickly?
I mean, super excited. I mean, you kind of like, for Hurricanes, even as fans, like you hear, oh, their Hurricanes were in on like Elias Pettersson at one point. Oh, they're in on, Timo Meier. They're on, Tyler Toffoli. This, that, or the other. You're like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll believe it when I see it. And then when you see Jake Gensel's name kind of a little bit more, and then it was kind of like, okay, you see Michael Bunting's out, the night before the trade deadline, and it just kind of like you start seeing like, okay, this is going to be legit. Then you're like, okay, this could be really fun to see what the return is. And yeah, I mean, they gave up Michael Bunting, and they also gave like Vasily Ponomarev, a couple other, prospects, and a couple draft picks, both of them conditional, depending on if they make the Cup final, if they win it, and stuff like that too. But honestly, Jake Gensel's been great for the Hurricanes since joining in. Like 25 points. 8 goals, 17 assists. He was a plus 16. Like, you will absolutely take that for a guy who's automatically just come in and make an instant impact with how him, Aho, and Jarvis were. You could say they were probably the most lethal line, coming into the playoffs after 17 games and where he was at. It's insane how at a 15.1 shooting percentage, and the fact that he got 25 points in 17 games is huge. Like, it's like he already fit in with the team, and he wasn't even there that long. And even for the playoffs, I mean, just a quiet 4 points, goal and 3 assists. He did get an empty netter. Even shooting at a 14.3% clip on the shooting, stuff. It's one of those things where he just seemingly just fit in with the Canes. Like I said, it's just a quiet 4 points, and he just keeps adding on to his point per game pace that he usually is in the playoffs. And if he can just hit that, there's another gear because you saw in the regular season. Because you just don't get 25 points with a new team like that. So if he starts tapping back into that too, watch out. Like, there could be some problems for sure.
Yeah, he makes me nervous because he's been a Ranger killer for pretty much his entire career. A couple years ago in the playoffs, the Rangers beat the Penguins. They got past them in 7 games, and the Panarin overtime winner, and that was awesome. But my God, I mean, that line was giving me nightmares through the first half of that series. And again, he's fit like a glove with the Canes, and somebody that the Rangers are going to have to watch out for sure. I'm wondering also too, like, do you have like maybe kind of an under the radar player on the Canes, somebody who not necessarily a household name? I mean, you mentioned Kuznetsov playing on the 4th line, but we know Kuznetsov. So anybody that's kind of like under the radar who you're going to throw out there, who you think could have a big series and make a difference for the Canes?
I know for the Canes, he's not really an underlying factor, but if you're talking about any other fan bases that might not think of someone who could be an X factor, I would watch out for Steph Nason. 3 goals, no assists, but he did get a power play goal, and this guy is, you would call him almost Mr. Net Front, because that's all he does. He gets into the greasy goals, he gets out front, he does a lot of great screens, board battles. Like, he finds a way to get himself in front of the net and just disrupts goalies. Like, he really gets under team skins, but he doesn't do it in a way of like a Brad Marchand or a Tom Wilson. He's there. He'll fight with you. He'll fight, box out and do all the stuff that needs to get done in front of the net. And I would say, yeah, his impact, just even like another 4th line guy next to Kuznetsov, but he also plays on the power play too. That's just because of how good he is, and the fact that he gets in front of the net and puts his body in front and do all the things he needs to do to get like the greasy rebound goals, be the net front presence that the Hurricanes love to have. Yeah, he's definitely someone to keep an eye on. Like I said, 3 goals in that first round. I could see him put up some more too, especially with against you guys and how physical your team is. that's a guy he'll chuck some knuckles too. He had no problem taking care of Kyle McLean from the Islanders, and also Matt Martin. He made Matt Martin flinch just by giving him a little bit of a head pump. So, yeah, I would say watch out for Steph Nason. He can he's not afraid to throw some fisticuffs when need be, but also can score goals as well in very clutch moments.
Listening to you describe him, I'm going to throw out a kind of a similar player for the Rangers, and that's the rookie Will Cooley. He's been playing on the third line with Alex Wenberg and Capo Caco, and not a ton of offensive fireworks from those guys in the first round, but very good defensively. They were not on the ice for a single goal allowed in the series against the Capitals, and Cooley came close on a couple of occasions to getting some of those greasy goals you were just talking about. He's in the crease and kind of hammering away, trying to stuff the puck home, not quite able to do it. But he also got kind of an unofficial assist in game 4, was pressuring the defenseman, pressured him into a turnover. Puck went right to Kako. He immediately shot and scored. But one of those guys, a hard-hitting player, I think there's going to be physicality in this series. I think emotions are really going to run high. And you do need a couple of those greasy goals. I mean, we all love a highlight reel goal from, Panarin for us or Aho for you guys or whatever it might be. But you need to get a couple of those dirty goals. And I think I'll make a mini prediction here. Give me Will Cooley to score a goal in game 1. I'm not going to say it's going to be like the game winner or what period or anything, but I just think at some point, we'll see Will Cooley, if you're a Ranger fan, hopefully light the lamp for the team. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So I figure we can go ahead. You know what? One more thing we got to talk about: Laviolette versus Brind'amour. Obviously, they're going to come with you guys together, as part of the Canes. Laviolette's the coach. Brind'amour's the captain back then. Just your thoughts, man. We got teacher versus student here. I think it could be a little bit of a chess match. Any thoughts on that matchup?
I think it's gonna be a fun matchup. Like you kind of saw when Laviolette was coach of the Capitals, and Brind'amour and them took care of them in the the Stadium Series last year. Outdoors for to get the Hurricanes' first ever outdoor win, and it's good to see they're no strangers to each other, but not the fact you're talking playoff hockey, especially when the fact you're looking at you guys won the President's Trophy. The Hurricanes were right behind them, won the last 2 divisions back-to-back years and stuff like that. It's definitely, I get to see a lot of 4D chess being played between both of these coaches because, in the fact of how each lineup is so stacked and, home ice advantage is going to be huge, I think, for both sides because the fact that you get that set, you get that last change, you can kind of set the matchups how you want it to be. I could definitely see a lot of mind games in terms of it's not going to be apparent mind games like you see with fourth line against fourth line to start a game and you get a line brawl and stuff like that. But you're going to see a lot of certain matchups in certain ways, like they're going to try to face each other off and stuff like that. And I think home ice just on those changes after whistles for faceoffs and stuff for icings, I think that's going to be huge between both of these guys for sure. A lot of chess for both sides.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, two excellent coaches and, guys that I'm sure are going to go in with a game plan. And like you said, that last change I think could be really important. The home team obviously gets that and, we'll see how it goes. But all right, so predictions for this series. I mean, who you got here, Zach? Who wins? How many games? How does it all unfold here?
Yeah, for me, it's a toss-up because it's I know on other shows I've said 7, on other ones I've said different numbers, and like I said, it's tough because you were okay, you automatically want to say 7 because that's what it looks like, but I believe I'm going to go out on the limb and say it. I probably will be wrong because, like you said, John, this is going to be a tough series regardless. I can see this going 7, but I'm going to go out there on the limb and say Hurricanes in 6. They're going to get it done at home, and they're going to steal a game at MSG and finish this in 6 at home. So, how about you? How are you looking for this series?
So I'm at the point, man, when it comes to the Rangers, I don't think, and really this even goes beyond the Rangers. This is just what I'm going to say has more to do with just how competitive the NHL is and how evenly matched all these teams are. It's hard for me to pick any team to be any team in fewer than 6 games. Even in the last series, we did the crossover with Dan from Locked On Caps. I said Rangers in 6. For this one, I'm going to say Rangers in 7. I just think these teams are so evenly matched, so driven, so determined. And, the players on both sides and the coaches are going to drill this message into their heads. They're aware, like both these teams really could win the Stanley Cup this year. And that's not just lip service for Ranger fans and Canes fans. These are 2 excellent teams. that don't have any real weaknesses. You know, we've kind of touched on that throughout the entire episode here. So I think it's going to be back and forth. I honestly think it could be a deal where the Rangers win every odd numbered game and the Canes win every even numbered games. And it just goes back and forth. And, you know, as Ranger fans, we know nothing ever comes easy for this team. And, oh, we could go up 3-1, but then the Canes win game 4. And, oh, we could close out in game 6, but then the Canes win that. And then somehow, you know, give me like a 3-2 Ranger win in game 7, because I really do think it's coming down to the wire. And I think these teams are both that good and that evenly matched.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Yeah, like I said, you could easily go 7. I like this whole episode, I'm like, do I go 7? Do I go 6? And I just feel like, you know what? Like, let's go against the grain a little bit, say 6. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it does go 7. And it could be, I'll even say this. I bet you at least 2 games will go to overtime just because of how close these teams are. So you better hopefully everyone likes having coffee or energy drinks tonight, because we're going to see some extra hockey at least twice in this playoff series. So it's going to be electric and a lot of fireworks. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get a couple fights here and there, because, like you said, both these teams are feisty. They can definitely bring it. And I think we're going to see some brouhahas be brought out in this game for sure in the series.
Yeah, I will second that. I think we get 2 overtime games. Maybe like each team wins 1. You know, we'll see how it goes. It's very difficult to predict, but I'll be surprised if this series goes any fewer than 6 games. Like I just don't. I can't get 4 or 5. There's no way. Like it's I would see that unless one team completely collapses and the other one just shows up and pulls up Florida Panthers, and it's like, okay, yeah, here you're taking care of business. I don't see that. Like these 2 teams are so tough and so evenly matched. Like I said, I just said 6 just for the fun of it, but I could see this going 7 just because. So it's either way, it's going to be a fun series. Also stressful, but fun to watch too, because it's playoff hockey. How can you not be excited? Amen. So Zach, listen, this is a ton of fun, man. Maybe we'll link back up at some point during the series, you know, post-game show, pre-game show, whatever we want to do. Whatever, though, either way, it's going to be a ton of fun and just a fantastic series to watch. So thank you again. And Rangers fans, Canes fans, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Big thank you to John for being the main host of the show. It was fun talking to him and doing a crossover, all the good stuff, talking about everything that you could probably look forward to in round 2 for your Carolina Hurricanes against the New York Rangers. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at OneTrueZach. You can also follow the podcast at LO_Hurricanes. Make sure to check out the link tree in my bio where you can find my writings at the Hockey Writers and the Calder Times, and also check out my other podcast, The Surgecast, on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. And you'll also see a link to all the podcasts for Locked On Hurricanes and also for the YouTube side of things as well. And if you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification to make sure you don't miss an episode. Hit the like button as well to let you know that you enjoyed the show, and then make sure to leave some comments. How many games do you think this series will go, and who do you think will win as well? And share with all Hurricanes fans and everydayers that you know, because we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. If we do something really cool, if we get to 1,000, I'd like to do something amazing for you guys. But hope everyone has a great rest of their Friday, and hopefully everyone has a great weekend. And until next time, guys, let's go Canes.